If I hadn't changed a decision I made in just 5 seconds that night, I'd be alive today. It was around 3 a.m. I was driving my 53-foot semi-truck down a deserted highway in Arizona. There was nothing but darkness. No towns, no traffic, no cell service. Then I noticed a pickup truck in my mirrors. It flashed its high beams twice. At first, I figured the driver just wanted to pass. But over the next 20 minutes, I realized something. He wasn't trying to overtake me. He was trying to lead me somewhere. And I had absolutely no idea what was waiting for me at the end of that road. I looked in my rearview mirror again. The pickup truck was still right on my tail, so close that the only thing I could see was the blinding glare of its headlights. I eased onto the accelerator. It sped up too. I slowed down. It slowed down with me. By then, there was no doubt about it. This wasn't just another truck on the highway. It was following me. I grabbed my CB radio and called out. Nothing but static. No answer. Then I spotted a sign up ahead. Rest area, 1 mile. I never liked stopping at deserted rest areas in the middle of the night, but I figured it might be the only chance to find out what that driver really wanted. I had no idea that pulling into that rest area was about to become the biggest mistake of my life. I slowly guided my semi-truck into the rest area. From a distance, I could see a few dim yellow lights, but the place was almost deserted. 2 old cars were parked off to one side, and a motorhome sat quietly in the darkness. Everything should have seemed normal, but it didn't. I never brought the truck to a complete stop. Instead, I kept rolling at a slow pace, circling the entire rest area. That's when I noticed a white SUV parked behind the restroom building. Its headlights were off. There wasn't a single person in sight. No movement, no sound. But the moment I drove past it, its engine suddenly came to life. And right then, a wave of uneasiness hit me. Because the pickup truck that had been following me had vanished without a trace.
I immediately glanced into my mirrors. The pickup truck was gone, nowhere to be seen. But something deep down told me it hadn't left. It was just waiting. I kept driving slowly around the loop inside the rest area. Then the white SUV began creeping toward me. Its headlights were still off, almost as if it didn't want anyone to notice it. I steered my semi toward the exit. Just a few more seconds and I'd be back on the highway. Then, without warning, the SUV swerved in front of me and stopped sideways. The exit was almost completely blocked. My foot slammed onto the brake. Then I instantly lifted it again, because at that exact moment, the same pickup truck burst out of the darkness on my right. That's when everything clicked. This wasn't someone following me, it was a setup, and I had driven myself right into the middle of their trap.
SUV was blocking the road in front of me. On my right, the pickup truck was closing in fast. For a few terrifying seconds, it felt like there was no way out. Then I remembered something. The greatest advantage of a 53-foot semi isn't its speed, it's its weight. I took a deep breath and kept the truck pointed straight ahead. The driver of the SUV was probably expecting me to panic and slam on the brakes, but I didn't. I kept moving forward, slowly, steadily. At the very last second, the SUV backed away. I squeezed past it and made it through. Then the pickup truck pulled up alongside my driver's window. Its window was halfway down. There were 2 men inside, and on the back seat, I saw something that sent a chill through my entire body. A long steel rod. It looked like it had been placed there, ready to be used. That's when the truth hit me. These men weren't trying to scare me. They had a plan for me.
I managed to get out of the rest area and back onto the highway,
but the relief lasted only a few seconds. I looked into my rearview mirror. The same pickup truck was behind me again. This time, the white SUV was right behind it. Now they were working together. I kept my speed steady. I knew any mistake caused by panic would only make things easier for them. For several minutes, both vehicles stayed at a distance, almost as if they were waiting for the perfect moment. Then, without warning, the pickup pulled in front of me. The SUV closed in from behind. I was trapped between them. That's when I spotted an old green highway sign ahead. It read, "Way Station, 8 miles." 8 miles. I just had to make it 8 more miles. Then suddenly, someone in the pickup rolled down the window and reached outside. They threw something onto the road. Shiny pieces of metal scattered across the pavement, tumbling directly into my path. I had no time to avoid them.
Shiny objects were sliding straight toward my truck. For a split second, I thought they were just random pieces of scrap metal. But the instant my headlights hit them, my heart sank. They were sharp metal spikes. If I swerved, the trailer could fishtail and I'd lose control. If I slammed on the brakes, the SUV behind me could ram into the back of my trailer. I had only one choice: keep the truck straight. Bang! A hard jolt shook the cab. Then another. But somehow, most of the spikes passed beneath the trailer without causing me to lose control. I checked my mirrors. The pickup truck was probably expecting me to stop, but I was still moving. Then, far ahead, I spotted a cluster of bright lights. It had to be the way station. For the first time, I felt a small spark of hope. But in the very next second, the SUV suddenly switched off its headlights and disappeared into the darkness. I had no idea. Had it fallen back? Or was it waiting for me somewhere up ahead?
The SUV's headlights went out. The highway disappeared back into complete darkness. I kept checking my mirrors. Nothing. No lights, no shadow, just an empty road. And somehow, that terrified me even more. You can deal with an enemy you can see. The real danger is the one that suddenly disappears. The pickup truck was still driving ahead of me, almost as if it was leading me to a specific place. Then the highway curved into a long bend. As I came around the corner, what I saw made my grip tighten on the steering wheel. A large truck was sitting sideways across the road. Its lights were off. No movement. No driver. The highway was almost completely blocked. And in that instant, I realized the truth. The SUV hadn't disappeared. It had gone ahead to become part of the ambush.
The truck parked sideways ahead of me was blocking the entire highway. To my left was a steep drop-off. To my right, nothing but loose sand and massive rocks. With a 53-foot trailer, there was almost no way through. I checked my mirrors. The pickup truck was racing toward me, and then the same white SUV that had vanished into the darkness pulled up behind it. Now I was completely surrounded. Suddenly, the door of the disabled truck swung open. 2 men climbed down. They were carrying flashlights, but they weren't shining them on the road. They aimed the beams directly at my cab. One of them raised his hand and shouted, "Shut off the engine and get out." The moment I heard his voice, every hair on my body stood on end, because behind him, a 4th man stepped out of the darkness, and the object in his hand wasn't just a flashlight.
The 4 men were walking straight toward my truck. One of them shouted again, "Open the door, now!" I didn't answer. The engine was already running. My air pressure was fully built. I had one chance left. I quickly scanned my surroundings. A steep drop-off to the left, loose sand to the right, the truck blocking the road ahead. Then I spotted it, a narrow gap, only a few feet wide, along the left side of the blocking truck. If I made even the smallest mistake, my trailer could roll over. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, put every bit of power into the engine, and aimed the truck straight for that tiny opening. Bang! A deafening crash echoed through the night. My driver's side mirror ripped off and flew into the darkness. The trailer scraped hard against the other truck's steel body, but I made it through. I looked in my mirrors. All 4 men were sprinting back toward their vehicles, and I knew the real chase was just beginning.
I brought the truck up to the fastest speed I could safely maintain. In my mirrors, both vehicles appeared again. The pickup truck kept trying to pull ahead of me, while the white SUV stayed close behind, putting pressure on me from the rear. But this time, I didn't panic. Far ahead, I spotted flashing blue and red lights. At first, I thought it was just another vehicle. Then I read the highway sign, Commercial Vehicle Inspection Station, Open. This was my last chance. Without hesitating, I steered my semi straight into the inspection station lane. The moment my headlights reached the bright lights and security cameras, the two vehicles behind me suddenly slowed down. 1 second, 2 seconds, then they made a U-turn. Without looking back even once, they disappeared into the darkness. That's when I realized the truth. They weren't afraid of my truck. They were afraid of cameras and witnesses.
As soon as I pulled into the inspection station, I didn't move the truck again. The first thing I did was call 911. Within minutes, state police arrived. I told them everything: the pickup truck, the white SUV, the roadblock they had set up, and my broken side mirror. One of the officers listened carefully, then looked at me and said, "You're very lucky. We've received several reports of incidents like this in this area over the past few months." Their target had never been the truck. It was the driver. They wanted me to step out on my own. That night, I survived for one simple reason: I never stopped the truck. From that day on, I learned one lesson I'll never forget. On a deserted highway, any shortcut can become the longest road of your life. The end. If you enjoyed this true and terrifying story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because the next story just might be even more terrifying.
If you enjoyed this terrifying journey, subscribe to Mr. Nightmare 2.0 and become part of our growing horror community. Sweet dreams, if you can sleep.